Hello, everyone. It's your favorite flower, Rose. We are on week 5. We are going back into the heavy topics. Today, we are talking about sexual orientation and gender identity. Um, Two separate things that a lot of people think are the same, and two things that I have struggled with until very recently. I struggled for years with both of these, but with the love and support of my best friend Marie, I've been able to come to accept who I am and also come out slightly to friends and family. So I urge you guys to find someone that you trust, that can be your strength, that can be your support. Um, I did a lot of research, a lot of information digging for today's overview. I'm going to put the links that I use down in the description box. They are also there for you to look at if you have any questions, if anything that I cover today you have questions on, or if you feel like I skipped over something, it will be in one of the links in the description box. I don't want to insult anyone. I don't want to, make you angry or feel like I'm targeting you. This is just an overview. This is just talking about everything, sexuality wise and gender wise. If you have any questions, direct questions that you feel like the links don't answer, you can always hit me up at my Twitter account at RoseYouTubes. You can DM me. I'm always there to respond. Anyways, let's just dive right in. We're going to talk about, all of that stuff. It's common for people to confuse sex, gender, and gender identity, and I'm hoping to clear up some of that confusion. So sex is a label. It's what you're assigned at birth based off of your chromosomes and your genitalia. So that's what sex is. Gender is a label based off of social and legal status, and it's mainly the idea of how you're supposed to act, behave, and dress in society based off of your assigned sex. Gender is that whole boys will be boys, girls will be girls. That's what gender is. Gender identity, however, is how you feel inside and how you express that feeling. And gender identity may be present as soon as you're able to talk, or it may take you a few years, which is what happened to me. Sexual orientation is who you're attracted to and is not correlated in any way to gender identity. Like I said, a lot of people think that your gender identity has to do with your sexual orientation, or your sexual identity or your sexual orientation leads to what your gender identity is. And that's not true. Okay? They're two separate things. They could cross over or they could not. So just keep that in mind. We're going to start with sexual orientation. And like I said, my friend Marie, my best friend, who I love and treat like a sister, she has been my support for so long. I am a proud bisexual. I came out recently to friends and family as a proud bisexual, and she was the one that helped me finally do that. For many years, I was questioning. When I was a little kid, I was really scared because I didn't know what a bisexual was. So I thought I was lesbian, but then I was like, I still like guys. So I thought there was something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with anyone. Okay? It took me a few years to finally figure out what I was feeling. And that's an attraction to both male and, to both male and females. Which is the definition of bisexuality, the attraction to two genders. Now, my best friend, however, she is a heterosexual, which is a straight person who is someone attracted to members of the opposite gender, so male and female. Gay, lesbians, or otherwise known as homosexuals, are attracted to members of the same gender. Asexuality is when you don't experience sexual attraction. And here's where another part people get confused. People think that when you're asexual, you're celibate, which means you don't have sex at all, which is not true. Asexual people have needs just the same as everyone else, And even if they don't feel sexual attraction, they can still feel different forms of attraction. So don't automatically assume. Do your research like I did. If you're unsure, there's many different sources you can look at. Queer and pansexual is when your attraction can spread across many different genders. Again, this is just a couple sexual orientations. I'm not covering all of them today, just a few. You could be questioning your sexuality like I was, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly okay. So I mentioned queer. Queer used to be a very, very harmful word, and to some it still is. And like I said, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to insult anyone. I'm just trying to get the facts out there. So always be polite and cautious. Don't just throw the term out there. It's kind of become like an umbrella word for members of the LGBTQ community. So if you're not sure if you should use that word, definitely do your research before you do. I'm saying a lot again, guys. Stop me. All right, we're going to move on to gender identity now. Again, I'm just doing a couple, there are a lot of gender identities out there. There's a lot of resources for you to use to find out, information. I'm going to start with agender. Agender is someone who sees themselves as not having a gender, someone without a gender. They don't identify as anything. Gender fluid is when someone can move between genders, switching between them. Like one day they can feel like a boy, the next day they can feel like a girl, the next day they may not feel like they have a gender. That's what gender fluid is. Bigender is someone who identifies as two genders, any two genders, doesn't have to be male or female. Intergender is someone who identifies as somewhere between male and female, not fully one or the other. Transgender is the most well-known, and it's one of the most controversial subjects in today's society. Transgender is when your gender identity is different than your assigned birth sex. I had a thought and I lost it. Demigender is someone who feels as if they are part of one defined gender and one or more parts of an undefined gender. And demigender is kind of a broad term for some subgender categories, which are demigirl, demiboy, and demi-agender. Cisgender is when you identify with the gender label that you were assigned at birth. And again, with that, with cisgendered, many people called cisgendered who are also heterosexual are called cishettes. And I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. And that can also be used as a slur. It's commonly used as a slur. So again, just be mindful of who you're talking to, mindful of the words you use, and if you're unsure about anything, do your research. A main aspect of gender identity that you see in the media a lot, that you hear a lot about, is body dysphoria. You probably heard people talk about it, you've seen it on TV, you've heard it on the radio. It's the discomfort experienced because of the difference between someone's assigned gender and sex, or someone's assigned sex and gender. So a lot of pre-surgery transgender people feel body dysphoria, and it's a very real, mentality. It could be harmful. So certainly seek out professional help if you do feel like you have body dysphoria. I know someone who was female to male, transgender, and they struggled with body dysphoria, and it led to some harmful things. So definitely seek help if you are feeling that. Like I said, my best friend Marie helped me come out partly. Until recently, I struggled with my gender identity. And so far, I've only come out to her, and now I'm coming out to all of you. I identify as demi-agender. I identify mainly as a girl, which is my assigned birth sex, but sometimes I don't identify as anything, or I identify as more masculine. And it was really hard for me to put into words. When I was younger, I was scared. I thought I was a boy. I thought something was messed up when I was born. I wasn't supposed to be a girl. I was supposed to be a boy. And now I realize that was just me not feeling complete as a girl. So you could be struggling with your gender identity. Definitely do research. I didn't address all of them today. There's a lot more out there. I use she, her pronouns. A lot of people will tell you their pronouns if they don't feel comfortable with the ones you're using. But a lot of people still feel like there's a stigma and that they're not allowed to tell you their pronouns, that they have to keep themselves hidden, that they can't be who they want to be. So if you are at any point, concerned or unaware of someone's pronoun, feel free to ask them. I guarantee that they'll be happier that you ask them what pronouns they use rather than you assuming and using the wrong pronouns. That was the first thing my best friend asked me when I told her that I was demi-agender. She's like, okay, what pronouns? Do you want to be called they, them? And I was like, no, she, her is still fine. Because I mainly identify as girl. And that's who I've been, my whole life. If you're struggling with your gender identity and you feel like you're not valid, you are. It took me 22 years to figure out my gender identity because there's so many social, constructs and rules and thoughts that are laid down on you from a young age. I thought I was born a girl, so I have to be a girl. I was born a girl, so I have to be attracted to boys. And that's not true. People say that these are all new terms and made up terms, but they're really not. These terms, if you look through history, these terms have been there. Particularly queer has been the main word. Like I said, it's been an umbrella term throughout history. It's in old works, old poems, old novels, old diaries. It's there throughout history. People have always felt like this, but they've never been able to come forth as this because of society's rules. So I'm hoping society one day will change and be more accepting. Until then, the most I can do is help you guys figure out how you're feeling, how you're feeling attracted to others, how you're feeling towards yourself, and how you're feeling towards others. So I hope I cleared up some information for you guys. I hope I provided some information for you guys. Like I said, I'm going to put the links where I got my information down in the description box. I'm also putting a couple links that you can go to for help, for support if you need it. So definitely check down there if you're feeling anything. Hit that subscribe button if you want to be notified when I post. Wednesday, we're going to go to story time. I'm going to talk about how I came to realize my sexual orientation and my gender identity, and a couple of my close friends who have agreed to share their stories. So until then, keep blooming. Be careful out there. I love you guys, and I'll see you on Wednesday.